Alright, so we're here for part two of the screencast on cars in America. I ended the last screencast with this question: what are your thoughts and conclusions about car manufacturing so far? What I was trying to get at is something that's really going to lead to the decline of the US auto industry when you combine it with some other factors that are taking place in the 70s. Back to this vehicle right here. The Dodge Super Bee was a vehicle that was made, and as I said before, a lot of these vehicles were made on the same chassis. Maybe they modified the motor a little, but at the end of the day, you pretty much have the same car. So we're talking about getting the same vehicle that you could get for the family and adding something here and there which satisfies the car enthusiast, and you wind up with a vehicle that might be a little different. But some people might look at it and say, well, that's pretty much the same vehicle. Like the 63 Impala, you can get the regular family version or you can get the SS Super Sport. But how much different is this vehicle from the other one? It's kind of the concept. So we'll take that idea and a couple of issues during the 70s that are really going to lead to the decline. Keep in mind, these vehicles are those 8-cylinder engines, definitely not fuel efficient. By the time you get to the early 70s, you start to see a couple of things happen. The auto industry is going to face some new environmental regulations from the government. OPEC is going to cut back production on oil, and that's going to lead to a gas crisis. Before you know it, Americans are going to have to rethink their manufacturing and their car culture craze that started in the 50s and booms in the 60s. These 1970 cars, if you notice, they definitely look different from some of the other ones in the former screencast. Notice this one definitely seems to be a little boxier. It's just like straight lines. This one seems to have a little bit more curve to the body. Like this one, look at it, it's rounded. It's just not a straight line. No boxes. This one has a little bit of a boxy. Don't even know what to say about that one. 1874 Impala, still a big vehicle. V8 engine, using a lot of fuel. Notice the Clean Air Act. They're concerned about emissions and pollution and what impact can vehicles have, especially after we built this massive highway system and we have encouraged Americans to buy all of these vehicles. Don't forget that V8 motor. Four spark plugs on each side, 4 pistons on each side, just a big motor. Talked about OPEC. You're going to start to see them cutting back on production, which leads to the gas crisis in the 70s. And before you know it, Americans need an alternative. And some people would find that alternative in foreign car manufacturers. This is a Toyota Corolla, 4-cylinder engine, half the engine of the V8. The question here is, can Americans make a small car with a 4-cylinder engine? Foreign cars have been doing it, but these foreign cars really are not what the car enthusiast purist really visions. These cars are small, their engines are small. This is not the way we do things in America. Golden age of cars, it's about having those big old vehicles, those big V8 engines. And we really are used to these bigger vehicles and these modifications. How are we going to modify some of these small 4-cylinder engines? But the 1970s, that gas crisis, some of the political issues are really changing, but it's destroying the car culture purity. But Americans try. They make the Ford Pinto, which was criticized for having a gas tank too close to the rear. You get hit from the rear, and these things were known to explode. Check that thing out. Americans really tried to make their small 4-cylinder cars. And I think it's safe to say they failed, which is why you see some of the Toyota and Honda car manufacturers, Datsun, really start to outsell American car manufacturers. We really struggled in the 70s with these smaller cars. But we tried to hold on to that golden age, the 1974 Trans Am, trying to maintain that engine, but still meet the standards from the government to restrict the engine and have some fuel efficiency, which is why some of these vehicles are actually being sold for pretty hefty pennies. And look at that sale price that they're asking for. It's one of those last cars from the 70s, for performance cars from the 70s. The very last. Why is it the very last? Because we have to figure out a way to make fuel efficient vehicles. You cannot have that V8 motor in a 1983 Cadillac, which is really more of a luxury car. But I'm using this car for a particular reason. Nice plush interior. This is a Chevy Cavalier. This was a 4-cylinder small Chevrolet that was designed to meet the demand of a smaller vehicle, fuel-efficient vehicle. Notice how this car looks similar to the station wagon, to the hatchback. It's all the same car. Cadillac is supposed to be a luxury brand. These cars were definitely sold to the wealthy American. That was their market. Chevy catering more to the lower class, middle class Americans. But this is an interesting one. It is a Cadillac, but it looks like that car. And this is what I was saying when I started off this screencast here. Americans trying to figure out an easy way to the car, trying to sell off the same vehicle. This is a Cadillac vehicle, but it is on the same platform as the Chevy Cavalier. What did they do? They cleaned up the grille. Look at that grille here. They curved this out. Notice it here. This one's a little straight. Look at the upgraded wheels. Look at these wheels right here. Look at the nice trim. Bam. No trim. So you decide whether or not these little upgrades justify an increase in price for the Chevy Cavalier, which pretty much means Chevy just took the Cadillac name, put it on this Chevy Cavalier, and sold you a very expensive Chevy Cavalier. What led to the decline of the US industry? Pause it. This is what I had come up with. The same car. Competition from overseas. It's really struggling with those smaller vehicles. And that's it.